Guys, and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to be analyzing a deck that uses two different types of Camerupt. So one of them is going to be the attacker of our deck, that is the Camerupt EX with the explosive jet and the tumbling attack. So tumbling attack, not exactly the greatest. What we're really trying to go for is the explosive jet attack. It's pretty energetically expensive, but once we do get our strategy going, it is extremely powerful and very difficult to stop. So I mean, the sort of main supporter type Pokemon that the Camerupt EX will be getting along his side will be from the help using Team Magma's Camerupt with the Burning Draft ability. So this Pokemon will allow us to repeatedly look for discarded fighting or fire type energy cards from our discard pile and then attach them onto him. And then through the usage of our the Camerupt EX's explosive jet attack, we are able to discard fire energy cards attached to our Team Magma's Camerupt. So that's pretty cool. That allows for a whole lot of versatility, and that allows us to repeatedly retrieve those fire energy cards from our discard pile without really us having to do anything at all. So very cool Pokemon, seems to work extremely well in combination with the Camerupt EX. And the very last Pokemon that we are running is going to be the Jirachi EX with the Stellar Guidance ability, allowing us to look for any supporter card from our deck and then to put it into our hand. And yeah, so Jirachi EX is just another very useful Pokemon. We can take advantage of its ability to look for cards such as the Blacksmith. Again, we want to try and get our Camerupt EX loaded up early just because the explosive jet attack does require a whole lot of energy attachment, and we want to speed that up just so that our deck stands a competitive chance. So Jirachi EX is quite an invaluable Pokemon. We have included a single copy of him in our deck as well. Now since we are running the Jirachi EX, I'm running a bit of an unusual A-Spec card. That is going to be the Scoop Up Cyclone. This allows us to put one Pokemon card and all cards attached to it back into our hand. This is going to work extremely well with the Jirachi EX just so we can use its Stellar Guidance ability a second time. We can also use it to recover a badly damaged Camerupt EX as well, for example. And of course we can use it on the very first turn if we happen to have a Jirachi EX as our starter Pokemon, for example, so we can bring him back into our hand. Because of course if Jirachi EX does happen to be our starting type Pokemon, well then that pretty much gets rid of the entire purpose of including Jirachi EX in our deck in the first place. Scoop Up Cyclone seems to be working quite well. You guys may ultimately want to switch it out for another A-Spec card, but in our case we are going to stick with this card. Now to discuss some of the item cards in our deck, given that we are running a deck that uses quite a few copies of the Blacksmith, I mean I have brought up Blacksmith time and time again already, so this allows us to attach two fire energy cards from our discard pile to one of our fire type Pokemon. Of course, this is meant to be used in combination with the Camerupt EX. With the Team Magma's Camerupt, wouldn't really make sense to use the Blacksmith since it is able to look for fire energy cards regardless. So Blacksmith's whole purpose is just to make our Camerupt EX attack that much earlier. So we are running two copies of this in our deck, and we're running a total of 4 VS Seekers. Definitely seems a bit on the overkill side, but again, it's just such an important card because we want to be able to use the Blacksmith time and time again, and there's a whole ton of other useful supporter cards that we can reuse with the VS Seeker. So we're going to be running a total of 4 copies of this in our deck. If you guys feel like that's too much, you can absolutely reduce it, but I think that this is the perfect number and it seems to allow our deck to work rather quite nicely. So we are going to stick with a total of 4 copies of this card. We're also going to be running some other cards as well, such as the Battle Compressor, which allows us to discard any 3 cards from our deck into the discard pile, and then we shuffle our deck afterwards. Of course, this can be used to mainly get rid of the fire energy cards into our discard pile. So that's sort of the main purpose of the Battle Compressor. We are running 3 cards of this, and we're also running a total of 3 copies of the Scorched Earth Stadium card. Again, the whole sort of purpose of it being us trying to get our fire energy cards into the discard pile, which can then be recycled using the Team Magma's Camerupt and then repeatedly discarded again and again using the Camerupt EX's explosive jet attack. So we're running a total of 3 Scorched Earths. Feel like this is a good number. 4 may be a little bit on the overkill side, and I wanted to dedicate some space for some other cards. Hence why we decided to stick with a mere 3 copies in our deck, which nonetheless should be more than enough for the most part. We're also running a total of 2 copies of the Energy Switch. This is just to allow our Camerupt EX once again to get loaded up earlier than it would normally take, just because, for example, the Team Magma's Camerupts can repeatedly recycle those fire energy cards, and then we can use the energy switch to transfer over some fire energy cards from Team Magma's Camerupt to the Camerupt EX. I mean, I was thinking initially of including the Electros in this deck as well, but that felt like it would just have taken up way too much space. So the energy switch seems to work much better, and it allows this deck to run much more efficiently. So we are running we are running a total of 2 copies of the energy switch in our deck as well. Guys, we're going to be running 2 sorts of switch cards, so one of them being the switch, the other the escape rope. Pretty self-explanatory cards. They allow us to switch in between our Pokemon. Our Pokemon have some pretty massive retreat cost, so I like to include usually a copy of both of these types of cards. Depending on the situation, one may be more useful than the other, so in our case, we are running a total of 1 of each of these respective cards. We're also going to be running a single copy of the Starling Megaphone. This is just to deal with the Garbodor mainly. It's also useful just in allowing us to get rid of some other item type attachments on our opponent's Pokemon, such as the Muscle Bands, for example, Silver Bangles, really anything like that. So 1 Starling Megaphone should be more than enough, and that is how many we will be running in our case. The other cards in our deck are pretty self-explanatory, with just one of them being a little bit atypical, which I will be discussing shortly. So we are running as well, guys, a total of 4 Ultra Balls, the 4 VS Seekers, which I have already discussed, 2 Blacksmiths, 1 Colress, 4 Ents, and 4 Junipers for some draw support, a total of 2 Lysanders, and 1 Lysander's trump card. We're also going to be running the Team Magma Admin Supporter card. This allows us to put up to 3 Team Magma Pokemon from our discard pile into our hand. Now, the really cool thing about this card is that it can be used in combination with the Battle Compressor. So we can actually use Battle Compressor to get some of our Team Magma's Normals or Team Magma's Camerupts into the discard pile, and then we can use the Team Magma Admin to look for those Pokemon and then bring them back into our hand. So that's one pretty cool possibility. The other one is that if we happen to get a lot of our Team Magma Normals or Team Magma Camerupts knocked out, well, Team Magma Admin can also be useful in just allowing us to grab those Pokemon from our discard piles and then to put them back into our hand. So pretty cool card. We will be running a single copy of this in our deck, and the other cards are pretty self-explanatory. So we're running a total of 12 energy cards, 9 of them being fire energies and 3 of them being the double colorless energy, and we're running a total of 2 muscle bands. So with that, we will be finding ourselves an opponent. This deck seems to be performing relatively quite well. The double Camerupt combination is pretty nice. The one thing is, though, that there is quite a few Seismitoad EX based decks that are out on loose right now, so I mean, it may not be the best sort of deck choice at the moment, of course, given the fact that you're likely to encounter a lot of those types of decks. But aside from that, it's a very solid Pokemon, and in our case, we're not facing a water type deck, so I feel like we should perform rather quite nicely. So let's go and lay down all of our Pokemon into the field. So it looks like we're going to be facing a Night March type deck, so I'm going to be using the Battle Compressor to get 2 fire energy cards into the discard pile. And we're also going to get a Juniper in our discard pile as well, because I'm probably going to be using the VS Seeker to grab it out during our next turn. So let's go and attach a Fire Energy card to our Camerupt EX, use the Blacksmith, retrieve 2 of our Fire Energy cards, and then attach that to our Camerupt EX, and then we'll go and end our turn. So already the Camerupt EX is almost going to be able to use its massive explosive jet attack, so we should be able to knock out our opponent's Pumpkaboo. I'm really hoping that our opponent does not get enough Night March Pokemon into his discard pile to be able to perform a one-hit knockout on our Camerupt EX. I mean, I don't really think it's likely. He would have to get a total of 20 Night March Pokemon into this, not 20, 10 Night March Pokemon, well, 9 Night March Pokemon into the discard pile. I think that's a little bit unlikely, but I mean, the opponent has already managed to bring 5 of his Pokemon into the discard pile, so really hoping again that the Pumpkaboo is not able to knock us out this early. That would make me a little bit upset, but I think our opponent may just be nearing towards the end of his turn. We're also running a so I mean, we just got hit for a massive 140 damage, but we're also running a, what's it called, the Lysander's trump card in our deck as well. I'm sure that's going to come in handy as well. So let's go and use the VS Seeker first of all, guys. Look for the Professor Juniper. Blacksmith is not really all that useful just yet. Okay, so we do have the Starling Megaphone in our hand as well. Again, not the most useful card, and man, looks like we don't have another Fire Energy card, so I'm gonna use the energy switch to move on a Fire Energy card to one of our benched Camerupt EXs. I am really hoping for the heads, guys, hoping that the Tumbling Attack does not let us down, and we are going to be able to knock out our opponent's Pumpkaboo and then draw onto one of our prize cards. I may just be using the Jirachi EX as well on our next turn to look for the Lysander's trump card and then reset all of our opponent's Pokemon that he has gotten into the discard pile. Okay, looks like the opponent is going to use the N, but luckily for us, we do have the Lysander's trump card in our hand. Another Battle Compressor is going to come out. I'm hoping that our opponent's Eevee is unable to attack just yet. That may just give us enough time to sort of get our strategy going once again, and hopefully the Camerupt EX does not get knocked out. Now we do have the Scoop Up Cyclone in our deck as well, so hopefully that can be used to retrieve our badly damaged Camerupt EX, but I think I will be using the Lysander's trump card on our turn, and at the very least prolonging our opponent from being able to attack us. So it looks like the opponent is going to use the maintenance card to lower the number of cards in his hand, and with that he is going to end his turn. So I am definitely very, very happy about that. So let's go and switch in to our Camerupt EX, attach a fire energy card to him. Before we use the Lysander's trump card, I will be using the VS Seeker to look for the Professor Juniper and put that into our hand. Let's go and use the Lysander's trump card. All our opponent's work has now been reset. Let's hope for the heads once again, and looks like we are going to get it. So we've just knocked out our opponent's EV, and we are able to draw onto another one of our prize cards. So things are looking definitely much more so in our favor now than our opponents. I mean, he did manage to inflict a almost fatal blow to our Camerupt EX, but with 40 HP remaining, that was just enough to allow us to slowly hopefully make a sort of comeback. So I mean, the opponent has a single Night March Pokemon in his discard pile, and looks like he's going to Rage Quit on us, so we'll be finding ourselves another opponent. And let's see what the mystery box has just given us. Okay, so 4 tournament tickets, that's pretty cool. Let's go and find ourselves an opponent one more time. So that's why Lysander's trump card is just such an important card now, just because of all the Flareon and Night March variants out there, that you really want to keep at least one in every one of your decks, more or less, nowadays. So just a very nice card. Quite thankful that we did decide to include one in our deck and reset all of our opponent's work. So it looks like this time around we're going to be facing a Fire and Thunder type deck. Not really sure what that is going to be about, but I'm assuming that the Lightning type Pokemon is probably going to be the Magma EX, but again, I'm not entirely sure. So let's go and start off by bringing a Camerupt EX as our active Pokemon, and we'll be laying down another Camerupt EX to our bench and seeing what our opponent has brought out. Okay, so it looks like it's a Magnezone EX. Definitely not a very common Pokemon that we tend to see. So we'll be using the Battle Compressor to get 2 Fire Energy cards into the discard pile. I can also use it to put one of our Blacksmiths as well, and then I can reuse it with the VS Seeker. But I mean, I'm not sure if that's exactly what I'd like to do just yet. I think I'm actually going to use the N for now, guys. I have put the Blacksmith in our discard pile regardless though, so chances are we're probably going to be able to draw into another one of our Blacksmiths during the next turn. So let's go and use the N for some new cards in our hand. Okay, so it looks like we do indeed have the VS Seeker at hand, so we'll be attaching the Double Colorless Energy to our Camerupt EX and the Muscle Band just so that we don't get head ringered, for example. And then with that we are going to go and end our turn. So most likely I will be using the VS Seeker on our next turn to look for the Blacksmith. And looks like our opponent is simply going to attach a Lightning Energy to his Magnezone EX. I'm not sure if he's going to... Okay, and it looks like he's going to Lysander our Camerupt EX from the bench as our active. That's okay though, I'm not particularly worried. I mean, I could use the VS Seeker for the N instead, which I think maybe what we'd like to do instead, because I mean Colress would only allow us to get a single card, so I feel like that is the better overall option for the time being. So we'll be using the Ultra Ball first to grab onto one of our normals and lay it down into our bench, use the VS Seeker for the N and get some new cards in our hand once again. Alright, so let's go right ahead, discard a Fire Energy card, attach one to our Camerupt EX, and then end our turn. We should be able to attack on our next turn through the usage of the VS Seeker to look for the Blacksmith and then attaching one of our Fire Energy cards to the Camerupt EX. Then we can go and use the Explosive Jet Attack to hit that Magnezone EX for a massive 200 damage, more than enough to knock our opponent out. So I'm not really sure if our opponent has the most competitive deck. I am seeing some relatively random Pokemon. I mean, Magnezone EX, probably one of the worst EX Pokemon out there. Definitely incredibly underused. And the Shinx, I mean, I don't think that the Luxray is all that potent of a Pokemon either, so the opponent is going to hit us for 40 damage using the Electro Ball attack. So let's go and use the VS Seeker and look for the Blacksmith. We'll be attaching a Fire Energy card to our Camerupt EX using the Blacksmith to get 2 of our energy cards and then attach them to our Camerupt EX. I'll also be using the Battle Compressor, guys, to get 2 of our Team Magma's normals, one of our Team Magma's normals into the discard pile and 2 of our Team Magma's Camerupts. And then on our next turn, I will be using the Team Magma admin to recycle those Pokemon and then put them back into our bench. So let's go and use the Explosive Jet attack, discard all 4 of our energy cards, and hit that Magnezone EX for 200 damage to allow us to draw into 2 of our prize cards. So it looks like we are performing quite well right now, and once we do ultimately bring out our Team Magma's Nummels, I feel like that's when we're really going to seal the deal, just because we'll have that continuous energy cycling mechanism, and our Camerupt EX will not have to discard any more fire energy cards attached to him. So I feel like that's going to make things work out quite nicely in our favor. So our opponent's Reshiram currently only able to hit for 20 damage. Feel like we can stall a bit for the time being. So let's go and use the Team Magma admin to look for all of those Pokemon and then bring them into our hand. So let's go and lay down a Team Magma's Nummel and a Team Magma's Camerupt. Use the Burning Draft to look for a fire energy card and attach it to him. And I think I'm going to use the Ultra Ball as well, guys. So we'll be discarding the Scorched Earth in combination with the Starling Megaphone to look for another one of our Team Magma's Nummels. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have any. So I think I'm going to go and grab into one of our Camerupt EXs, lay him down, and attach the Double Colors Energy to our Camerupt EX, and then end our turn. So we will be using the Blacksmith on our next turn, so our Camerupt EX should be able to attack, and this time around at least we will be discarding some fire energy cards not attached to our Camerupt EX but to our benched Team Magma's Camerupts. So the opponent has laid down the Rough Sea Stadium card, a bit of an unusual card. I think I may just use the Scoop Up Cyclone. I mean, it has 100 HP. I don't think our opponent can knock us out all that easily, so I feel like I'm going to save up the Scoop Up Cyclone for a little bit later. So for the time being, let's go and use the Blacksmith to attach 2 fire energy cards to our Camerupt EX. Look for some more fire energy cards from our discard pile and then attach them to our Team Magma's Camerupts using the Burning Draft attack. Then let's go and use Explosive Jet, discard 3 fire energy cards, hit our opponent's Reshiram for 150 damage, and draw into one of our prize cards. So things are looking very much so in our favor. This deck is pretty potent for the most part, and yeah, so I feel like if our opponent is unable to bring another one of his bench Pokemon, we are going to be able to win. So yeah, guys, looks like we are able to win. Not really going to prolong our opponent's suffering, so let's go and use the Explosive Jet attack, hit that Luxio for 100 damage, and go on to victory. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys got a good sort of idea of what this deck is all about. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.